Get your rub on with Addicted to the...
Hello, world. We are here tonight with Ryan. And let me get my phone in my tripod, maybe. There we go. How you doing tonight?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Not too bad at all. Watched the little Chiefs game yesterday, so.
Yeah, they survived that.
So, are you ready to start?
I'm always ready, man.
All right, introduce yourself and tell us your team name.
All right, I'm Ryan Suydam from Hickory Stick BBQ. I also cook under Dirt Slingers BBQ whenever I'm kind of feeling bored and Todd doesn't want to cook with me, so I kind of do that a couple times a year as well.
Gotcha. So when did you start competing?
I started competing probably about 4 years ago, right before COVID hit.
I think I was at maybe the contest. I think you might have got your first GC at. I'm not quite sure. Was that in Washington, Missouri?
That was actually Hickory Stick's first KCBS GC, but I was not around yet. That was right before I got started.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I was cooking with my buddy Eric Burkhart for my master judging certification. So I was at that contest, and I remember that was your name being called for grand, and I was wondering if that was your first one.
Yeah, that was Hickory Stick's first KCBS and only KCBS GC, but I wasn't even in the game yet.
Gotcha. So what made you want to start competing?
Luckily in our area, we've got a lot of competitions really close. And I had a friend of mine from high school was helping putting on one of them, and they needed judges. So they asked me if I wanted to come judge, and I was like, well, yeah, why wouldn't I want to come judge barbecue, you know? So I went and did that, and I loved it. I fell in love since then.
So here is the kind of a different side note with this. You guys, I found out, I guess it was last year or 2 years ago that you guys started the Clinton County BBQ Society. When did that start? And tell us about that.
So in 2018, this was also pre-COVID. So it was there. Like I said, the comps have been around for a while. There's been, 5 to 8 comps in our area. The comps were there. There was just no sanctioning body to them. So some of those guys, Todd and Rob Hockey, they started a little group called the Clinton County BBQ Society, and they had meetings, every month and met. They always met at a Fine Swine when it was open, and they had meetings and stuff there. And they tried to get this started. There just wasn't a lot of interest in a structure, I guess, back then. They were okay with the way the competitions were, I guess. So then I guess it was 2 years ago, right as I was getting started, the whole group of us, we sat and talked about it, and we liked that we had all these local comps, and we wanted to put some structure, to what was going on, and throw a points championship towards it. So some guys had, something to work towards. And this past year, we put a lot of work in over the winter. Got some sponsors, some really good sponsors. We got Cordy Meats involved. We got Mash Off Farms. We got Donald Wall Distributing. Some big names, Hogs and Heats on the list. And they threw in some money to help us out. Got a points system put together on our banquets in a couple weeks for that.
Nice. So do you think it was a pretty successable year overall with it?
Not without some hiccups. We started out pretty rough the first contest with some judging issues, but towards the end of the year it was going pretty smooth. And we've already added 3 comps for next year's schedule, brand new comps first year. So we'll be at 11 comps, I think, for next year.
So is the scoring system similar to SLBS or KCBS?
So scoring wise on paper, we're based off of KCBS's numbers. And and we have all that program and stuff. And but you'll get paperwork back after the contest. You'll get your scores and stuff like that. But like competition wise, like the meets and stuff, we leave that up to the organizer because, like I said, these comps were in place well before we were a structure. So we're basically just there for help with judging. We bring our judges in and structure with scoring and stuff like that. So they basically come up with their comp rules: how many meets, what kind of meets, where the meets come from. Because so another thing that's different about ours is it's meets provided. Most of our comps are. So we have places like Cordy and local meat markets and stuff that they just give us a group or a total price on a meat, and the teams get their meat from there. So your meat's provided.
That's pretty cool.
So like some of the comps will do all 4 meats. I think we had 3 comps that were all 4 meats this year. A few of them are 3 meats where we did ribs, pork loin, and pork butt. And then some of them were just 2 meat comps of like chicken wings and ribs. So for this year, we just did an overall championship. And we took the best 5 scores out of those comps and took an overall championship. Next year, we decided to add in a rib champion and a pork champion, I think.
So who was team of the year this year?
Q Moon Barbecue, our buddy Jason. Really good guy, really good team.
I think I remember seeing a live of him winning one of them or something like that.
Yeah, he's the one that sings the national anthem at all of our comps. He's got the voice of an angel.
So who was some of the founding members?
So like I mentioned before, Todd and Buck, they were the ones, and a few other guys that were around then. They were the ones that had the original idea. They just didn't have a lot of structure to kind of, or I guess the means to take care of it and get it done. So it just kind of took a while. And then COVID came in and kind of shut that down as well.
So you are currently president?
Yeah. A couple of weeks ago, we passed our bylaws to be an official, organization. And I was like the interim president for the past year, but they elected me president for the next 2 years again as well.
Is this all based in one state or multiple states?
Our comps right now, we're open. We're Clinton County BBQ Society. We're a county, but all of our comps are in Illinois right now, and they're within about a 2 or 3 county radius. But we're open to stuff.
Branch out some. I mean, KCBS is Kansas City barbecue.
Yeah.
So
right, we're open, and none of our stuff is big enough to be considered qualifiers. We don't draw 30, 40 teams. We're around 15, 25, but we're not against piggybacking one of our contests with a sanctioning body maybe and making one of our events a qualifier, to get some of our guys, names out there as well.
Yeah.
So is basically the rules the same as far as turn-ins, meat inspections, any of that?
Well, there's meat inspection you don't have to really worry about because the meat's provided day of comp. So Cordy, if Cordy's providing the meat, we take their trailer and it sits there. And when teams show up to check in, they check in and they go to the trailer and they basically grab their set of ribs, their butts, their stuff like that. And they can go do whatever at that point.
Okay.
And then competition rules, like that's usually up to the organizer. They give us their set of rules to go by.
As far as like turn-in times.
Yeah. Because some of them fluctuate. So with it being people's choice, not people's choice. With it being meat provided, the meat provided is also extra meat. They also give like an extra couple of ribs and stuff like that. So most, if not all of our contests are people's choice as well. So we do the judging, and then once they turn in their boxes, they put the rest of their meat out for sampling. So that's how the organizers make their money, is wristbands and stuff like that for the people's choice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So have you guys seen an increase? So you have seen an increase in the amount of contests, you said, right?
Contests, yeah. There's a lot of interest in contest wise. It's getting teams. Our teams haven't really jumped up. There's a few more teams that have asked about it this year that are talking about coming to compete in some.
Well, I mean, you got to be doing something right because KCBS is losing contests. So maybe providing meat's not a bad thing.
Yeah, there's guys against it and guys for it. it's a hard one to sell to certain guys that are so used to just going to pick out their meat. I'm the same way. If I'm doing an SLBS comp or KCBS comp, I'm going to go pick out what I want. But in the same sense, when we're doing contests like this that are meant to make money for local places, I really don't care. I'll use what you have, and I'll do the best with it.
Yep. Didn't you win an SLBS GC this year too to qualify
Yep.
for the World?
Yep, we won our first SLBS GC, and that was at the comp that Cordy's put on up there, trekking for CDH. So that was a big one for us. That was on our list of, we wanted to win that one. They're close friends of ours. We really wanted that one, and it was a huge surprise because we didn't dominate. There were some big teams there. Janky Leg was there. Tim Shear was there. There was some heavy hitters there, and I know they were coming back from Murphy and stuff like that the day before. But we didn't dominate. We had a third place brisket call I got, and I think a fourth place ribs or something like that, and then chicken was in the top 10, I think, and it was just enough, man.
So you didn't think it was an over the top cook? It was just
no. We nailed our cooks. We just didn't think against that kind of caliber that we were going to walk away with it. And when they were calling the top 10, we didn't even think it was, even when they got to top 2, we were like, we tanked pork, that we didn't even get in the top 2. We tanked pork. And then they called it. It was the coolest thing ever, man. Everybody stood up, gave us high fives on the way up there. It was one of the coolest things ever.
Especially since, because you guys won some Clinton County ones, but you haven't made it a qualifier. So now you guys qualify for the Royal Invitational.
Yep. We're preparing for that already. They got hotel rooms booked, and I'm going to get the spot and stuff and start working on some of that as soon as we can.
Because you always said you weren't going to the Royal until you qualified for the Invitational part.
Yeah, that's how I am. I know a lot of guys are like, man, I'm just going to go. It's fun. And I get that. But I just, to go there, I just want to earn it to be there, It
is. The American Royal is a great time. That is for dang sure.
I can't wait. It's going to be big.
It's on my bucket list to cook.
Right. I don't want to just cook it. I want to go there and show up and hear our name called.
Yes. What's going on, Victor? I just saw your comment. So, how many members do you have in the CCBS?
As in like team-wise or overall members, judges?
Team.
I would say between 50 and 80. We have a huge judging class coming up in March, and we're trying to get 40 plus judges for that one, and they're on top of the 27ish I think we already had from last year's pool. And we knew when we started this it was going to take a couple of years to get a decent judging pool out of this. It just takes time. We had 27 in the first class, and we maybe used 15 to 20 all year last year because you just don't get people to dedicate to it like we need them to. So doubling our pool every year will help with that. Team wise, I think we had about 25 or 28 last year total, maybe 30 depending.
So did the majority of judges just sign up for the most, like keep re-signing up for contests, or was it a lot of different ones?
Yeah, it was basically the same smaller group of pool of judges, but because we didn't have a big group to choose from.
Ron Albert said they've got 14 signed up already.
14 judges, yeah. And it's going to be a 5-meat class. We're going to do all 4 meats, and then we're going to do pork loin also because we do pork loin at a few of our events. And some judges, the judging on pork loin last year was a little weird because judges just don't know how to judge pork loin, I guess.
Yeah, I did take that back. I judged it one year at the Royal, and that's the only time I've judged it.
Yeah, it's just a different texture that you're not used to.
Yeah, Victor, they're just across the border. Aren't you guys pretty much like Belleville, O'Fallon kind of
just area? on the east side of all that, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, Clinton County is attached to St. Clair County. It's just on the east side of it.
Gotcha. So what's the biggest competition you've cooked?
Cooked. I was there and I cooked ribs, but I don't want to say that I cooked it because I was not even remotely ready for it. It was the KCBS Invitational back in 21, I guess, when it first came back out in Kansas at the casino.
Mhm.
Yeah,
that
it was a
one
blast. It was really cool, but I was not prepared for it at all. I had just gotten the game. I'd cooked 3 comps maybe before that. But we got the invitation from that KCBS win in Washington. That was so Todd let me cook ribs at that one.
That was the one and only time I've judged the Invitational.
Oh, you were there?
Yeah, I went to judge it.
That
It was
place
weird
was a
because there
blast.
was still a lot of COVID restrictions on that.
Yeah, the casino was really, really iffy. You had to have a mask on unless you were drinking, so you had to pull it down and drink. It was dumb.
It was pretty. They had a lot of COVID restrictions still.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Victor, what's your favorite meat to cook in comps?
Oh, I think I think everybody knows brisket's my go-to when it comes to comps. I got thrown into the fire real quick when I first started cooking with Todd. He needed somebody to cook brisket, and that was the first thing I cooked at a pro comp was at Smoking on Main in Collinsville. He's like, "Hey, can you cook brisket?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'll give it a shot," you know. And that was without any. I don't think I had any comp experience before that, any of the small ones or anything. I just got thrown into the fire cooking brisket. Ended up like 17th place out of like 40 plus or whatever at that one. But I was hooked after that, and I've gotten a lot better at my brisket, but with a lot of help from some guys in barbecue that have really been there for me to help get where I am. But definitely brisket.
What's your least favorite?
Least favorite was probably pork until I started, because Todd does chicken and pork when we cook together, and I do brisket and ribs. But I've cooked a few on my own this past year, and I've had to figure out how to cook pork, you know. So I started cooking the collars, and I've gotten to where I like what I'm getting out of them. It's just I don't like cooking them.
Pork to me is just kind of, I don't know. It used to be one of my favorite categories to judge, but it's kind of bland, and it's
so inconsistent when you're cooking it. It's really hard to miss your spots. Or it's really easy to miss your marks on it.
So Rich asked, do you have a favorite seasoning that you use for your cooks?
Oh, yeah, I do. Thanks, Rich. It's this stuff. It's the stuff that I make. It's my high side. It's my high side hickory rub that I use on ribs.
I saw one of my buddies, Josh Hess, I think used a little.
Yep, Josh has some.
And it was some pork. I mean, I think he was cooking on pork butt, and it gave that stuff amazing color.
Yep. It's a real good finishing rub on pork, and it's a real good top rub on pork and ribs.
So let me see. What do you cook on in comps? What do you use to cook?
We're basically drums. But to make chicken more consistent, it's Traeger for chicken. Just you get a better concealed temperature whenever you're cooking chicken on something like that. But drums, it's just too easy not to cook on drums.
Gateway, Hunsaker.
My brisket drum's a homemade drum I made 4 years ago. It's a rusty mess, but it's cooked some mean brisket. And then my rib drum is from Texas. It's one of the short rib drum smoker brands from down there, and it's bright orange. I love that thing. If it wasn't for shipping, I'd probably buy about 3 more of those. I think it cost me just as much as the drum to get that thing up here.
Probably from Texas, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's a really good quality drum.
Victor said he just switched to a drum. That's all I use now is homemade drum. I take that back. I use drums in the Weber Smoky Mountain, but drums are my go-to. And you're talking about that. I have a drum that I found on Marketplace for like $70, and I think that thing's more rusty than blue, but it cooks the hell out of some food. I'm
thinking about just throwing a clear coat over the black and the rust on my black one just to seal it in. I don't care.
That's what I thought. I was gonna paint it, and everyone said, "Just leave it. It's cool the way it is. Just leave it." So I'm probably just gonna coat it.
Pretty drums are pretty drums, but I like the rusty ones.
I don't mind it. It's cooks better than what it was when it was nice looking.
Yeah.
There's just a whole different feel on a drum when you cook on it.
It is. It's different cooking, and once you figure it out, you kind of have it figured out.
Yep. So, do you have any advice for any new competition cooks?
I don't know about like new competition cooks, but like people in general. If you feel like you're kind of like that outcast and don't have something to kind of go to, or that group of friends, definitely go to a contest. Start talking to some of these guys. It's crazy the group of friends that I have now, and the group of guys that I talk to on the phone, random times throughout the week, every week. I would have never thought I'd have this kind of family or group of friends around me, and it's crazy how much they've helped me.
So this is kind of an off-the-cuff question, but I ask a lot of people this. If you could change one thing about competition barbecue, what would it be?
The cost, man. It's crazy how much I'm spending on brisket just to go out, and if I don't win or get second in brisket, I'm losing money in a competition. So people see why I put so much work into my brisket at a competition. If I'm not getting a call, I'm going home pretty unhappy and broke.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard. It's going to get harder this year.
It is definitely not a cheap sport.
No, it's not. And I used to spend my weekends at the racetrack. That's why my other team name's called Dirt Slingers. That's where I used to be on the weekend. So I traded that expensive weekend hobby off for this one.
Either way, it's expensive.
Right. At least I'm making money back on this sometimes.
Like somebody said something about making, $10,000 in competition barbecue. You got to spend about 40 to make your $10,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Unless
Or we got to be BQU. I mean, just win Invitational and Open.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That I wouldn't even know where to begin. Like
No, I couldn't even imagine. If it was me and I won the first day, I probably wouldn't even put in the same effort I did would the second day.
Like the one, there's a couple guys that he was on a podcast, and a couple guys said, "What do you do after that?" Like I would retire after.
Right. What can you do after that?
Yeah.
But if you beat the odds like that, then you can basically do anything after that, I guess.
Pretty well.
Yeah.
So what's in the future for you? Making chicken molds?
There's some stuff in the works. I don't want to let too much out until I get some practice in with it and running some stuff and waiting on some other stuff. I'm ready to compete. It's been a long couple of months. I thought I was going to be competing a week ago, but that didn't happen.
Yeah.
So I'm raring to get out there. I'm ready to get our banquet done with and get the next season going for Clinton County side of it.
Yeah, that was a little shocking. I applied myself and was hoping, but obviously.
Yeah, it was shocking, but it's also just one of those things you figure is going to happen.
Yeah. Well, I'll quit going into all that. So Brian, do you have anything else for him?
No, not yet. Not now. No.
Maybe once we get the chicken mold figured out. I cook legs, so I don't know if I'll need.
I did too, but chicken was our downfall last year. So I was like, man, we're gonna figure something out with chicken. So we've been working all winter trying to get something consistent down. So I told myself I would change over to thighs this year just to make sure we had something consistent also. Because it was our down. We could get a call in all three categories, and chicken just wasn't close, and it's been killing us all year.
I say that I might go back to thighs, but the only contest I cooked legs so far, I got first place chicken on. So far, I'm thinking I might stick with legs for a little bit.
Yeah, and SLBS legs are so hit and miss. You can win with chicken legs, but you won't see much of the top 5 with chicken legs. It'll be mostly thighs. So you'll sneak some in there every now and then, but it's just not consistent.
Mm-hmm.
That is weird.
I love cooking them. I love cooking legs. That's what I've been doing for a while now, and I've got them down to where I like them, but they're just not scoring consistent.
Trimming is definitely easier. That's why I switched at first. But
yeah, I was putting some work into when I trimmed them too. Though I would cut the tendon, I would shave the tendon up, and then do a bunch of work with the meat itself, and then fold the skin back up, just shaping it.
So you cook? You said you cook Wagyu then? I'm guessing for brisket.
Yeah, I was cooking Marble Ridge basically all of last year until the end of the year. Couldn't get a hold of a good quality, brisket. They were a lot of thin gashes through them, stuff like that. So I went back to Snake River Golds.
That's what my buddy with Clinton that was cooking. He said he used to cook Marble Ridge Farms or Marble Ridge ones.
Yeah, they're hard to find, thicker ones. They're really thin.
Mm-hmm.
Thin brisket is kind of a pain in the butt trying to cook.
It's injecting. It's an issue, and yeah, if I don't care how thick the brisket is, as long as I've got a consistent thickness to it, because that thickness will play games with your cook times and stuff like that. It'll throw you off. The one contest I didn't have a call, two contests I didn't have calls in brisket this year. I knew it was going to happen because I ran a thicker brisket, and I told everybody, I was like, I'm going to screw this up. It's thicker than what I'm used to cooking. So I ended up overcooking one. One didn't get done, so I tried to push it. Well, it didn't have enough rest time after it was done. So it was a little over actually also. So it'll throw you off if you don't have a consistent cut of meat every contest.
Yep.
Or don't know how to adjust to that, I guess.
So how many comps are in your wheelhouse for this summer?
I don't know what we're going to run yet. We don't know. We talked about not running SLBS for points. We thought about hitting some KCBS stuff to be ready for the Royal at the end of the year. We definitely want to run a few KCBS comps. We thought about running the Illinois KCBS series they run over here for points and seeing where that puts us just to get us ready for the Royal also. But we don't have a set schedule. We're going to run some CCBS. We're going to run some SLBS comps that we like, and then we're going to find some Illinois KCBS comps also.
Not chase any points and just kind of mix it up.
No, not chase until we fall into something and then have to chase,
How'd you end up for SLBS for last year for team of the year?
We were 6th overall. I took 2nd in ribs and 2nd in brisket. Brisket came down to the last competition. I needed to win brisket. I got 2nd. Tied for 2nd. I ended up getting 3rd in brisket. So I was like 15 points from Papa Jim's from brisket.
Yep.
Wow.
I did what I had to do. It just didn't work out.
Gotcha.
Slide $100 in with the turn-in box.
Yeah. And ribs. I got 2nd in ribs, but ribs was so far. I didn't have a chance at that point. I had to hold 2nd. I had like 3 guys on my tail for 2nd at that contest. I had to finish good. I think I got a top 5 and I got 2nd in ribs that day.
Nice.
Well, so do you sell your rub, or is it just kind of?
I sell it, but I mix it in small batches, like 5-pound batches at home.
So
I just don't have it. I don't have the backing to be able to go get a run at a place and get a batch of it done. Throw $1,000 at it to get a batch. I don't have that sitting around to do it, and this stuff's not selling fast enough for me to have to worry about doing that, I guess.
So, but if people would want to buy some, they just message you. Yeah.
I've got them in 5.5 ounce bottles, and I've got like the 1 pound bags. I forget. I think it's $10 for a bottle, and then 15 for a bag.
Gotcha. Well, does anybody else have anything before I let them go?
Nope.
Well, thank you for coming on. It was great talking with you.
Oh, no problem. I appreciate you having me on here.
Yep. So
Yep.
Thanks
Ryan.
for listening.
Thank you, guys.
Have a good night. See ya.